OnlyFans has managed to do what many other businesses have failed at. It took a product people were used to accessing for free, adult content, and convinced them to pay for it.
The business model of being naked online was fairly broken.
The business model of being naked online. It's just so funny the way you just said it like that. But that's true. It took something you were getting for free and convinced you to pay money for it. But to be fair, the things you're usually paying for, you can't find for free unless you look for leaks for a lot of the OF content. So it's not really the act you're looking for. It's the person doing the act. That's usually what makes OF specific.
They managed to piece it together to some degree.
In just 4 years, the company's revenue grew more than 2,000%, bringing in $6.6 billion in
2023. I did not know it was thriving that well.
Now, other social media platforms, they're like, ooh, we can do subscriptions too. It's like, yes, but subscriptions is only part of the picture.
There's a lot of people out there just think you just take some sexy pictures in lingerie and you just post it, let the money roll in.
Right.
And it's so much more complicated than that.
Despite looking like other social media platforms, OnlyFans' underlying business model is different.
It seems like OnlyFans' approach has just been to figure out what the legal line is and then stop several paces short of it.
That's why the platform isn't on major app stores, and the company says it's built a deliberately hard-to-use search function. Now it's capitalizing on a creator economy in flux to build a new type of social media. This is the economics of OnlyFans.
One of the things that got me really interested in the business model was just how different from social media it was.
Most social media companies like Facebook and Instagram make their money from advertisers, but OnlyFans makes all of its money directly from its creators.
Yep.
And its creators make money directly from fans.
Because remember, like I have to pay OF a cut, then I pay the government a cut, right? So I get, it is a three-way relationship. I'm in business with the IRS and I'm in business with OF. So I think OF's cut is 20% and then the US government's is 20%. So I make about 60%, right? Is that right? I think it's a 20% cut for OF. So keep that in mind when you make this money that you always got to pay government daddy. Always. And then, of course, these companies should take a fee because they are providing the platform, right? That's actually, okay, not to jinx myself, but I have always wondered why YouTube pays its content creators in a sense, because in some ways they don't have to, but in some ways it makes sense that they do because it's a good incentive to create more content and to encourage more people to be a part of the platform. But I actually wonder if they're going to ban the use of hardcore AI as content in the future to some extent, because it is kind of devaluing the platform in a sense. But at the same time, I don't feel threatened by AI competition because I really do feel like if you choose to watch an AI content creator over me, like that's your prerogative. Like there's nothing I can do about that. I was just watching Francesca. Last name is not Ramsey anymore. I forget their new updated last name. But I was watching Francesca talk about how as people who make content, you can't expect your family and friends to support your content because it doesn't work like that. No successful content creator really made it because their family supported them. It's because of strangers. It's because you appeal to a large market. If you only appeal to your family and friends, like that's not a business, that's a charity. So I really love this coming from Francesca because it's so easy to assume that if my friends and family don't support me, that I must not be successful. That's not how it works. It's nice to have your family and friends say like, good job, I hope you do great. But at the end of the day, like, does your family come to work with you? Right? Like, does your family actually come to your business and like go, that's my kid? Like, no. So why would you need it when it comes to creation? It makes no sense. So that's why people, I think, don't always treat content creation like a job because they think it's different than a job. It's still a job. Just like OF is still a job. And that's why I always tell you guys, right? I made the decision. Am I going to be an OF content creator full-time, like erotic art, like a model, an artist, or am I going to be a YouTuber? And I say this because they're very different niches, very different audiences, very different like thumbnails and vibes. And I chose YouTube commentary as my main income. And that's why I do it on the side OF. But I actually think I'd kill it as an OF content creator full-time. I actually think I could make some monies, but could I be cute every day? Could I feel good about it every day? Could I do it? It's a lot to be an artist. Like an artist in that particular way, a physical artist is very different than me just showing up on stream looking somewhat cute. Like it's a very different vibe. So I made a decision based off spoons. What could I do full time if in a realistic way. And commentary is so natural to me. It's what I've wanted to do my whole life, even before, I thought about erotica or erotic works as a possibility. So that's what I focus on, is what can I actually do every day and not burn out as much versus, costuming and makeup and set design. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot.
We only make money when creators make money.
Creators can charge fans up to $50 a month for their content, much of which is explicit, some isn't. The company takes a 20% cut, and creators take the rest, which is more straightforward than other platforms that share a percentage of ad revenue once your account meets certain criteria. Now, OnlyFans didn't invent the idea of revenue sharing, but it had timing on its side. Other websites already existed that allowed creators to monetize their content directly from fans. A couple years after OnlyFans launched in 2016, social platforms like Tumblr restricted adult content. Then, in 2020, things really took off. The platform doesn't have nearly as many users as Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, but there's a big difference. They're on most app stores. OnlyFans isn't.
OnlyFans sort of has to be swimming against the current. And they have to do this because Apple's terms of service do not allow for pornography as a full-time thing.
That was a decision made by us because we were hopeful that we would end up processing a large amount of payment volume.
By not being on the app stores, OnlyFans doesn't pay Apple and Google a 15 to 30% cut on all transactions made on an app.
That's enabled us to keep our 80-20 monetization split, which is fundamental to how we do business.
Nice.
If we had to give 30% of our 20% to somebody else, that may change the economics for us.
OnlyFans has paid its creators $20 billion to date. That's more than quadruple the payouts
Wow.
of Patreon, another creator subscription.
And Patreon just recently put out a message about Apple charging like a 20-25% fee for their app, like if you pay for Patreon via Apple's apps or Apple's store, you're going to pay an extra fee. And Patreon gave the creators an option. Do you want to pay the fee or do you want your customer to pay the fee? And I'm like, just don't use the app. Like, if Apple's going to charge that much, like, what good is Apple? But I'm not an Apple user. I've never been an Apple user, except one time I had a MacBook like 10 years ago. So like, I'm not used to those types of fees. Like, that's ridiculous.
Platform that's been around longer.
We now have 4 million creators, 300 million fans worldwide, not being on the apps.
And by the way, if anything ever gets taken down, if I'm ever off a website, like if anything kicks me off, I'm just going to go to places like OF. Right? Like if YouTube kicked me off for some reason, I couldn't become a YouTuber, which I would never do because I follow TOS. But if that happened, I would just go to places like OF. And I would have a commentary OF channel that was free. And then I would post all my videos there. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there are other options out there and these competitors are examples of it. But also there's some stigma about going to OF to support a YouTuber who's not doing adult content. So there's something there that branding is so fascinating that way.
Store has not had a negative impact on growth.
As much as OnlyFans is very different from other social media platforms, it is also symbiotic. Where do all the fans for an OnlyFans account come from? And the answer is overwhelmingly other social media platforms. Yeah. So what OnlyFans is doing is basically outsourcing to content creators the job of recruiting their own customers.
Yep.
You've got to do the groundwork.
See?
If I'm not making content, I'm on a site messaging, I'm doing all my advertising, the marketing, everything. Like I might watch half an hour of TV if I'm lucky, and sleep.
In 2021, OnlyFans launched OFTV, a safe-for-work streaming platform as another marketing tool for its creators. But
in order to monetize on OnlyFans, really you need to have an existing fan base that you're seeking to monetize.
True.
It's quite a hard platform to start off from scratch.
That's because the company says algorithm-driven search recommendations don't exist on the platform.
Exactly.
Say you want to find creators who post yoga content. It said a simple search for yoga won't get you very far. Instead, you'd have to search the exact username you're looking for to get any results.
Yep.
But it's not quite that simple. We tried searching for yoga and got a lot of results suggesting different creators. And OnlyFans does have a homepage promoting different creators' content and a suggested account section, which the company says are the most popular accounts at the time and aren't personalized based on users' previously viewed content or personal data. Still, the company relies on other social media platforms to bring users in.
It would not be possible for them to have succeeded to the scale they had if creators hadn't been able to sort of harness virality in social media, even as that was something that OnlyFans itself rejected for its own platform.
There are moments, for some reason, you'll have like a dip and then you'll question everything. And then like, I have content go viral again on Instagram and be like, oh, maybe I am actually good at this.
As the platform has continued to develop, we added the ability to tip, to have pay-per-view messaging, to have paid direct messaging, to have paid live streams, and paid voice notes, basically a million different ways to consume and to pay for content.
Today, OnlyFans actually makes more money from those one-off purchases than it does from subscriptions.
And you can see how much it was, how many people viewed it, and how many purchased.
I think microtransactions are a sign of a deepening relationship. People pay good money for this stuff, whereas like, how many people have paid for cat videos?
And there's a lot of people that go on there they want someone to talk to. They want that kind of like online girlfriend sort of like experience, or they want to like sort of chat about something that's gone on in their life or their day.
The company doesn't put a number on the average creator's earnings.
There are people who earn eye-wateringly large sums, there are people who earn a little bit, and there are people who are in between.
Even now, I've hit 1 million on there.
Wow.
I've come from being a secondary school teacher, being at the food bank, and that's why I just don't take anything for granted. I always think you don't know what's around the corner. You don't know if you can have everything one moment and then have it all taken away from you.
True.
Making sure creators get paid, no matter how much, has been a challenge for the business. Back in 2021, it was apparently so difficult for OnlyFans to work with banks that its CEO at the time banned adult content. That decision was reversed just days later.
2021. So obviously it was before my time, and the company had grown exponentially over a very short period of time.
Okay, so Chat says, I've heard 80% of male users are married. For sure. I don't think adult workers are responsible for the marital status of their customers, for the record. That doesn't make any sense, right? Like, it's not my job to figure out who's married and watching me. Like, I'm at my work. Like, that's not my job. I also don't answer DMs except to answer, if someone wants a video or something, I send it to them. But I don't chat with my people. I don't create relationships on OF. You know what I mean? But, I don't think that's the point of doing this job, is that you're not responsible for if people are cheating on their spouses. That's not your job, right? That's their responsibility. Like any other job, we're providing a product. You have to decide how you're engaging in that product. And then people individually can put boundaries in place to keep people relatively safe. You know what I mean? But yeah, there is something to be said about it. I am really lucky that a few of the people that message me will say things like, my wife and I love you. And I think there's something really cute about couples who like my work, and that's nice. And I am a very particular kind of content creator. I'm really, really lucky that I make anything on OF, given that I provide Britney focused content, the content I want to make that I think is pretty. I don't do DMs. I don't play the girlfriend experience. I don't cater to the audience in that sense. That's because I made the decision not to be a full-time OF content creator. If I had gone full into that industry as my primary job, I would have offered all of it, because one, I think I would have been great at it. Not the girlfriend experience part, but I would have offered sexting. I would have offered maybe erotic exchange. I would have been so good at it, girl. I would have killed. I would have been so good. All my years of reading smut would have killed. You know what I really wanted to do? I really dreamt of writing smut for people. That was my dream job at one point. I was I want to write smut for people, because I thought I was pretty good at it, So yeah, there's something about it that's actually a lot of fun and really creative and beautiful and just so exciting. And then there's a part of the industry that's just horrible and sexist and awful and just abusive. And I hate every part of that. So I avoid it at all costs. But yeah, there's something to be said about, it is a job, coming to work. Like this woman said, I love the woman they interviewed, the former teacher, who basically said, you never know what's around the corner. You never know. Even if you've made all this money, first of all, her $1 million that she's made, I don't know if that's her cut or her income overall. Remember, 40% of it has to go away, right? So 40% of it has to go away, and then she keeps the remainder. So it is interesting, though. When we think about, I like that her humility told her, you never know what's coming around the corner. Yeah, I think that's really great. Tessa, stop teasing us, girl. Girl, you stop, girl. Another world, another Britney. But I will say I am appreciative that I get to do anything on OF and that it is a side hustle and that I do have really great viewers there. They're so sweet. Like I feel really lucky. And P.S. if you come to my OF and you're negative at all, I'll ban you. Because sometimes people come and you can tell they have a fantasy that I don't provide. Like, you're a dirty whore. I'm like, we don't do that here. You can't call me a whore. I'm sorry. I don't do that kind of work. Like, I don't allow any foul language, especially towards, no. Like, even if I did OF full time, absolutely you cannot talk to me that way. So, but that's a whole fantasy for people where they want to degrade women. And I just think men who are willing to pay you so they can degrade you are bad people.
I don't think there was a great level of understanding in the market about the sophistication of the controls that were in place at OnlyFans. And I think people, frankly, got a little spooked just by how big the company was and the amount of revenue being generated.
As for another ban,
Oh, we're definitely not banning adult content. No, easy.
financial institutions can deem accounts associated with sex work as high risk and deny service or raise fees, partially due to the risk of platforming child abuse.
Absolutely, there is risk associated with some of those businesses, but there's often the same risk associated with general social media platforms.
Hello, TikTok. TikTok is gross. The way I come across certain videos on TikTok and I'm like, oh, this gives bad energy, report, block. Like, child exploitation on TikTok is so obvious and it's gross. It's gross. Okay.
As there are with OnlyFans.
Payment processors typically take a 1 to 3% cut of each transaction, but high-risk accounts can be charged more than 10% in fees. And payment processors say that's because adult merchants come with reputational risks, rampant fraud, and higher levels of customers disputing credit card purchases. So OnlyFans works with a combination of providers, which it says is to ensure global coverage.
This is my nerdy lawyer nature coming out, which is what matters is not the headline risk, it's the unmitigated risk that matters.
OnlyFans says it's now able to work with institutions that haven't traditionally worked with the adult industry because it's proven to them they've mitigated risk through safety controls.
Is there more?
They're very strict on their terms of service. Like, they're very strict about what you can put in your descriptions. They're pretty, honestly, they are one of the most serious platforms when it comes to adult content that I've seen in a long time. I think they're very serious about vetting anyone who shows up in your video. I tried to post a video where I was at the beach in public, and you couldn't see anyone clearly. It was in the very distance because I was super in the water, and they took down the video in seconds. They're like, nope. There's like, we detect other people in the video and they haven't signed contracts. We don't know who they are. And I was like, damn, I can't even do like far away shots of me in the water because there were voices of other people, maybe slight imagery of them for like a second. And I was like, okay, that's fair. I was just posting like a cute beach photo or video. I didn't even think about it. But I was like, okay, so they took down that video. And then I put like, if you put like, I had a wax video and a knife play video. They took those down. Photography, any violence against women or people, they took those down, which is fair. Like, I was doing it wasn't a violent photo shoot, but it was like not even violent, and they took it down. I think as a way to protect for moments like this, right? It's a business move, but it's one that actually I think benefits the community in the long run. So it's not like kink.com where you can go fully extreme, but it's pretty good.
Work to do, absolutely. Do some banks and financial services institutions still have an outdated risk model that they follow? Absolutely. In some cases, is that just a moral judgment call? Absolutely.
OnlyFans requires creators to submit.
Oh, hold on. They took down the wax video because I think I had a knife in it. I was using the knife to scrape off the wax. And I think that's why the video got taken down. Not because of the wax, but because of the knife that I was using to take off the wax.
More than 9 forms of ID to prove they're above 18 before they can post content. But it's a lot easier to create an account as a viewer. It took me just a couple minutes to set up a new account with an email address. Once I entered a payment method, I was prompted to scan my face using a program by Yoti in order to verify I'm over 18. And within seconds, I was able to subscribe to explicit accounts without providing any further forms of identification. OnlyFans says every piece of content is reviewed by a combination of automated and human checks designed to block certain words and non-consensual images. But the system isn't perfect. The company's UK regulator is investigating whether its face scanning system has done enough to prevent under 18s from accessing pornography. OnlyFans said fan verification varies depending on location, and that in all jurisdictions, they require fans to register with a valid payment card, confirm they're above 18, and accept the terms of service.
Keely talks a very good game in terms of why there is a moral case for running the company the way that OnlyFans does. There's another reason that I think is a little more unspoken, which is that if you are directly taking a cut of money that is going toward pornography, you better be damn sure that money is going toward legal content and that the whole thing is exceedingly well lit and not abusive.
Today, OnlyFans is pitching itself as one of the most lucrative choices for all types of creators across the $250 billion creator economy, recruiting athletes, comedians, and adult entertainers alike.
I do want to see more content creators from all verticals join the platform, but I want OnlyFans to be recognized as the incredible business success story that it is.
They really sort of have, to some degree, treated this as a business rather than as something dirty, and it doesn't really seem like anybody else is stealing it away from them.
Love it.
If you want to hear more from OnlyFans CEO Keely Blair, click the link in the description for our extended interview.
Ooh, okay. I really like this vibe, honestly. Very well done, very respectable. But also, Chat pointed out a great example of some of the issues with the site. Chat says, I have a Patreon and I post spicy content. Decided not to do it on OF because of all the judgment and negative connotation that comes along with the site name. And I make spicy content. It's annoying. It is annoying because I think you're right. I think there is a negative connotation that comes with OF that is unnecessary, but I think is represented by the highest paid earners on OF who sensationalize their platform in order to get more people to join. And I don't blame people for having that association. I mean, even I, before I joined it, had it where I was like, I don't want to join this website and have people think that like I'm obligated to make a particular kind of content or that I'm a particular kind of person. But then I was just like, I'm just going to do me and do it anyways. And I've made like a significant amount of money in the last 3 years since I started it. Like I make a pretty good amount of my money from OF. I mean, it's decent, you know what I mean? And that's me like part-time. I think if I did it full-time, even now it'd be significantly different. I just don't have the spoons. Man, I wish I had the spoons sometimes, because I do think like with any job, if you had more energy and you could work more, then you could produce more. But moving into 2025, we are not going to work ourselves into the ground. We're going to be health conscious, chronically ill, autistic girlies that are going to pay attention to those intrusive capitalistic thoughts that come into our brain and that threaten our livelihood, meaning our health. Because man, if my health derails and I really burn out, then I'm not going to be able to even work part-time. And that, is just something that I'm, becoming more and more aware of. I have a podcast I want to do after this next one about working and being chronically ill, because I think it is significantly different for me than working and being neurodivergent. And I know this because I know what my work history was like before I was diagnosed, and I know what it's like after chronic health. I genuinely, with all of my struggles growing up, all of that autistic, my autistic assessment, all of the work history that blew my mind about like, oh my God, there's my autistic burnout. It is not the same burnout I feel being chronically ill. And that happened in my 30s. So I will talk about the differences because, man, I'm telling you, it's different. It's very different. And I won't lie, I think it's kind of sad. Like there's a part of me that I feel like I could cry more talking about the chronic health stuff more than the autistic burnout, because it comes with a physical pain that's so specific and it's so invisible and it's so frustrating. And I know you all know this because it's the same story for all of us. Like we're such like, I know it's not a monolith, but I feel like it's such a universal experience of chronically ill people where it's like so invisible and I'm the only one who knows I'm feeling it. And that's so frustrating because it's like, how do I convey to you that I'm feeling this thing? And I've never felt it before, but I know you can't feel it. And it's probably not showing up on scans and it's not showing up in my blood tests. But I'm telling you, it's a pain I've never felt in my life. It's very different. It's very significant. And so, yeah, I'll have a pod about that in not this one, but the next one. And I hope it helps because it is a very different it's a very different thing than working neurodivergently, but we love to work. And so we make it work. All right. Shout out to OF, shout out to the industry being seen as something like a business rather than just exploitation of people. And let's move away from that exploitation into what it should be, which is an opportunity for creatives to work. An opportunity for creatives to work. I actually want to do a podcast with some adult workers that are also autistic. Shout out you know who you are, girl. And we should talk about being autistic adult workers, because there is an overlap between autistic girlies and adult content that is about creativity. Those creative brains, our lack of sex negativity turns into the greatest like relationship, I think, with adult work. Anyways, we'll get into that, I'm sure, in another collaboration, you know. All right, let's move on.
In my head, in real life while I'm in bed, my belly's being fed and I'm okay. I'm just fine, yet all I do is whine. Not to you in my mind, cause I know I don't make sense. I've been nothing but blessed, so why's my life a mess? Please tell me, cause I'm sick of thinking. Yeah, I'm sick of reaching out for the truth and living life as a fool.